History of Society Part 2, Session 10. In this session, we will recap all that was engaged in this term. Where land is free and men do not hold more of it than they can use, the amount of wealth taken, respectively in rent, wages, and interest, are wholly different from the amount taken where land is enclosed. Land, labor, and human desires are the primary factors of production. Where land and natural resources are available for use without charge, then there's no limit to employment. All healthy men can work, but if they cannot have access to natural resources, they must, for the greater part, be reduced to a condition of dependence. Some few with a high degree of skill may rise above this condition, but will also be subject to competition, which will tend to lower wages. Wages will tend to an amount which will be accepted by the lowest bidder of equal skill. The land is freely available, wages will be determined by what the worker can obtain in association with his fellow men, using the best equipment on the best free land. Capital is produced by labor, and where labor has free access to land, it must control capital. Capital is a wasting asset, and the average life under wear and tear is 18 months. Where land is free, improvement in government, the services, and the arts will increase the productive power of labor on all land, including the best open to use. Whatever difficulties might arise in changing from a condition such as exists today to a condition where land is freely available, the change once made would result in wages rising so that those in industry obtained for themselves all that could be produced from the best land open to use. Where land is all enclosed, wages are held in a trust by competition for work, always tending to the least men will accept. Education may well increase the minimum standard which workers demand. Agitation and labor protests are the only means by which wages will remain above a minimum level. When land is enclosed, wages fluctuate above and below a minimum level, depending on whether the economy is expanding or contracting. Many of the touted policies do not improve wages, such as economy in government, increase in skill, thrift among the poorer classes. They, however, increase rent. Strikes do not serve better conditions for workers. Sheer necessity and the waiting unemployed undercut such approaches. All men naturally gravitate towards communal living, and in so doing, have fundamental economic duties towards each other. Each man has an obligation to keep the land in good condition and to pay the rental value of the site to the community. On behalf of each man, the state has a fundamental duty to make and keep land freely available for man's use. The state can do this by extracting rental values for all valuable sites. When this is done, wages rise to its natural level based on the product on the most marginal site available and occupied. These were the issues to cover this term. Next term, we will have an exclusive look at trade between countries and protectionist sentiments. We will not have a second half this evening. Before we proceed, listen to what Henry George said, which summarizes the work we have been engaged in this term. We heard this statement in a previous session this term. This fact, the great fact that poverty and all its concomitants show themselves in communities just as they develop into the conditions towards which material progress tends, proves that the social difficulties existing wherever a certain stage of progress has been reached do not arise from local circumstances, but are in some way or another engendered by progress itself. And, unpleasant as it may be to admit it, it is at last becoming evident that the enormous increase in productive power, which has marked the present century and is still going on with accelerating ratio, has no tendency to extirpate poverty or to lighten the burdens of those widens the gulf between Dives and Lazarus, and makes the struggle for existence more intense. The march of invention has clothed mankind with powers of which a century ago the boldest imagination could not have dreamed. Factories, where labor saving machinery has reached its most wonderful development, little children are at work. Wherever the new forces are anything like fully utilized, large classes are maintained by charity or live on the verge of recourse to it. Amid the greatest accumulations of wealth, men die of starvation and puny infants suckle dry breasts. While everywhere the greed of gain, the worship of wealth, shows the force of the fear of want. The promised land flies before us like like the mirage. The fruits of the tree of knowledge turn, as we grasp them, to apples of Sodom that crumble at the touch. It's true that wealth has been greatly increased, and that the average of comfort, leisure, and refinement has been raised. But these gains are not general. In them, the lowest class do not share. I do not mean that the conditions of the lowest class has nowhere or in anything been improved, but that there is somewhere any improvement which can be credited to increased productive power. I mean that the tendency of what we call material progress is in no wise to improve the condition of the lowest class in the essentials of healthy, happy human life. Nay, more, that it is to still further depress the condition of the lowest class. The new forces, elevating in their nature, though they be, do not act upon the social fabric from underneath, as was for a long time hoped and believed, but strike it at at a point intermediate between top and bottom. It is as though the immense wedge were being forced, not underneath society, but through society. Those who are above the point of separation are elevated, but those who are below are crushed down, taken from progress and poverty. Look forward to seeing you next term to continue our study of the nature of society. Before we end, I would like again to let you attendees know that unsustainable development is an educational offering devoted to the dissemination of its course to all of mankind and to those who have English language as their official language in the first instance, and to all eventually all over the world. To make this possible, and because we do not charge a fee for this dissemination, we rely wholeheartedly on monetary donations to meet the cost of achieving these goals. If you have found these sessions useful thus far and would like others to have access to them, we would be grateful. We would gratefully accept your donations should you be inclined to offer them. You can send donations to our PayPal account at the email address notebroker2001 at yahoo.com. Thank you for your kind gesture. As indicated before, you can communicate with us by going to our Facebook page on sustainable development or our YouTube channel, Balancing the Economy. We will be responding to all your comments or questions. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, press the alert button to get notices that our latest session has been posted. All sessions are archived at our Facebook page. Please share with your family, friends, and acquaintances.